I'm still doing it, but you can go ahead and get started.
Sure. Well, you're the first one talking, so why don't I give you a second to let everyone in, and then.
Okay.
And I can also keep my eye on the waiting room if you like while you're speaking.
Oh, thanks, Kristen. That'd be great.
Joe laid out an ambitious.
Okay. It is officially 7 o'clock, a little bit after, so we will get started. Welcome everyone to our final high school council meeting of the year. Thank you for joining us. It's actually going to be a great meeting because in addition to all the exciting stuff that we're wrapping up with this year, we also have NRUS Consulting presenting with us as well. They're doing a project. Anne is going to introduce them, but I just wanted to say welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. And Ann Meyer is going to start off the meeting.
Great. So I will begin by going over a few things that Roy wanted me to make sure I mention. One is just an update on COVID. Since spring break, the high schools had, which is quite some time now, the high schools had 3 cases total. And out of that, I think total we've had to quarantine 2 students, which is unbelievable compared to where we were at in the fall. And I would say that probably one of the main reasons for that is students being vaccinated. So that continues to be promising, that our cases are very low, that we have everyone back in the building in person, which is phenomenal. And that in cases where something comes up, there's very few students that actually need to quarantine. And more students are getting vaccinated. So and if the news is correct, it's possible if Pfizer gets approved in the next week or so that the age group can expand even more than it is now. So we feel like at this point, the high school is the safest place in the building because we have so many people vaccinated. I wanted to let parents know that we are reinforcing with students to wear masks. I think one of the things that's happening as students are getting vaccinated is they're feeling maybe a little more relaxed, and probably the CDC guidelines that are starting to say outdoors people who are vaccinated can take off their masks is a bit confusing to some of our high schoolers who are vaccinated. So we're reinforcing the importance of wearing masks at all times on school property, whether you're inside or outside. So just if you can reiterate that with your children, that would be wonderful. And finally, just a reminder that the budget vote is coming up, as well as the election of 2 board members, and that is on May 18th. So be sure to get out and vote. So that's it from the district perspective. I'll just go over a couple of announcements from the high school, and I'm happy to answer questions before I hand it over to our NRUSC partners. So we have a lot going on in the high school between now and the end of the year. It's great, exciting stuff for our students. Today we had our final Bronxville Voices Assembly, where we heard from Keon Harold, one of our students who you may be familiar because it was just all over the news in December. Had an incident occur in New York City where he was accused of stealing someone's phone wrongly, and it was videotaped and kind of went viral. Keon basically shared with the high school his experience and how he's dealt with that, and also how he's really used it to try to push forward positive change. He's a tremendous individual, honestly, having gone through such a difficult experience and really coming out of it with a lot of compassion and positivity. So it's a very powerful Bronxville Voices Assembly. On Thursday, we have SFL is hosting a field day. So we haven't done this in a very, very long time. I want to say more than 10 years, but it's a great year to do it, to try to get kids outside and enjoying things and being together as a grade. Each grade level is going to compete during one block of the day, so we won't have the whole school out there at the same time. But the school's been divided into a blue team and a gray team. So essentially, the entire school's involved in competing against each other, and they'll get points for the different events within their grade level that'll total up into whether the blue team or the gray team wins. The SFL is also organized for some food trucks to come at lunch. So it should be a great day. It actually looks like it's going to be great weather. So really looking forward to that. AP exams are coming up soon. I'm sure people aren't looking forward to that, but they are approaching. Faculty are doing a lot of review sessions, getting students ready. And as the exam schedule starts, just a reminder that on the day of an exam, a student does not attend their other classes. And once they take a particular exam, for the rest of the exam period, they do not attend that class. So that's in an effort to sort of reduce stress during that fairly stressful time. And I know Mr. Haven, our athletic director, is working with coaches to try to make sure as much as possible that there aren't games for students on the days they have exams. You know, look, there's 6 weeks of AP exams and different schools are doing things completely differently. So we're really doing the best we can to try to prevent those conflicts. I'm not going to guarantee there will be no conflicts, but we're going to try to have as few as possible so our students can focus on the exam the day they have it and not be thinking about their teammates playing a game. We are going to be hosting an in-person Memorial Day ceremony this year with our veterans. It will not have the whole school on the front lawn, but we will have some students in person on the front lawn, and we'll be live streaming it to the rest of the students in the building and to parents who'd like to watch. So again, our band will play. They're thrilled about that. It's a really beautiful event, and we're happy to be able to do it as much as possible the way we would typically. After that, our seniors have senior week. A lot is being planned for that. A lot of work going into that. And again, as much as possible in person, which we didn't know would be possible at the beginning of the year, but it is more and more possible now. At the end of that week, the first week of June, we have the high school musical, which is going to take place outside the auditorium lobby, which is phenomenal. So our students, if they're not in spring sports, they're getting ready for the musical. Our seniors, the following week, will have senior shadowing. That will be virtual just because it involves so many different companies. And, that just isn't possible this year to be in person, one of the few things. And then at the end of that week, we have the high school play. So that is going to be outdoors as well. Get ready. It's going to get crazy starting now, but all with good stuff. And then the following week, we will have an award ceremony on Monday. I believe it's the 14th. And what we're going to do for that, we're actually going to have it in person. We're going to bring in each grade, one grade at a time, into the auditorium. For the first time this year, they will be together as a grade in our building, and we will present some awards recognizing some excellent work. That will be live streamed for parents. So a schedule will come out. We'll bring in each grade, go through that. And also at that point, when the students leave, they'll get their yearbooks. I know the PTA is thinking about some sort of a breakfast/lunch kind of picnic thing, grade by grade. And then that week is baccalaureate. Just met with our performing arts teachers today. We have a lot of phenomenal performances planned by our seniors, and our AP art students will be presenting their portfolios, which was done for the first time last year. It was really phenomenal. And so we're doing that again. And then graduation on Friday. Graduation right now, we have planned that Beth Ahern and I were able to do a mock on the steps of students 3 feet apart. We are able to fit our senior class mostly on the steps, a little bit onto the front walk and a tiny bit onto the front lawn, but it's really that beautiful image of the school in the background with the graduating class. And then at this point in time, based on guidance, we will have just 2 guests per graduate on the front lawn. That may change. We will make it work if it does. We also have a plan if we have to move inside. And that reminds me, I forgot about prom, which is happening 2 weeks from Friday. We are selling tickets this week. Again, very exciting. And for students that are going to prom, which is only seniors, they have a mandatory meeting next Wednesday with Mr. Lassane in the auditorium to go over some of the rules. We're hoping to have a promenade, weather permitting, and there are some testing/vaccination requirements which have been communicated to parents and seniors, and I will reiterate leading up to that. So I think that's all I can handle. I'm going to be honest. So please don't anyone contact me to propose something else, but it's all good stuff. And I think it's going to be a great, end of the year, a great 6 to 8 weeks. So thank you to all the parents for your tremendous support throughout the year. And we're really so happy that so many of these things that our students look forward to and are the memories that they'll have after high school, that they're going to be able to have those this year. So I think that's it for me, but let me stop and take questions. Yep.
Hey, Ann, I've had a couple people ask me, would you, if the students have been fully vaccinated, would you like that information? So like for graduation and even if they're not prom separate, but if they're not going to prom and they, would you still like that information?
So technically, we can't require people to share it with us, but we're happy to have that information.
Okay.
If you'd like to let us know.
Okay. And just email you a picture of the vaccine card?
Yep, you can do that.
Okay. I'll let people know. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Yep.
One question from the chat. It says, you don't seem to be concerned that this is an experimental vaccine not approved by the FDA. And additionally, there are no studies that show that masks protect us from transmission of a virus.
So what we're doing is following the Department of Health guidelines. It's up to every individual family to make the choice that's right for them. As far as the vaccine, we're obviously thrilled because the case numbers have gone down tremendously. Science will, I guess, indicate data to determine whether that's related to the vaccine. That's the assumption. As far as masks, though, the Department of Health is requiring those to be worn in schools. So that is why we are as well. Other questions?
Nothing else on the chat. If it comes back up, we can always revisit it after the NRESC presentation then.
Great. So do you want me to introduce Margaret? Okay, great. So I'm so happy that tonight we have Kynan Robinson and Kristen Swenson from NRESC joining us. This is a consulting firm that we've worked with actually over the last almost 2 years now. Started last year looking at sort of how we can kind of get a sense of where we're at in the high school and what innovative things we might want to do in the future. And with COVID, it's somewhat put a pause to our plans that we were working on. But what's been great is we brought Kristen and Kynan in January to talk to faculty and students about what this COVID experience has been like and what we can learn from it to bring forward. And they've compiled that information and are here to share it and also get feedback from parents about what you've noticed in this experience. So really, they'll share their findings, but the idea is to think about what have we learned and what can we use going forward from COVID instead of thinking that nothing good came from it. Actually, a lot has come from it for us, and we want to use what we can to continue to innovate in the high school. So I'm going to hand it over to Kristen and Kynan.
Okay, thanks, Anne. Hi, everyone. My name's Kynan. I'm the founder and CEO, and this is my partner, Kristen, who does like a multitude of jobs. But one of her jobs is she's the head of research at our company, because she's an amazing researcher. Hey, Anne, before I really kick into it, I just want to say I'm exhausted by listening to what your updates. Are you the hardest working woman in the world? I need to sleep now after that. Hey, if people have got their cameras on, it'd be great if cameras available. It'd be great if you could put them on just so we could see everybody's faces if you're comfortable doing that. And also, we just got a couple of like little workshopy things to do. So having cameras on is oh, there you are, Darcy. Hey, having cameras on just makes it a little bit more personal. Yeah, I think it's for us as a firm, it's been like working with Bronxville. It's probably good for you guys to hear this. It's just been like an unbelievably pleasant and fascinating experience, essentially. Like the leadership team, the students, we work across the board. We work with some parents and board members, and everybody has been, I know you're a very high achieving school, but the quest to continually get better, which is sort of the role that we play with schools all around the world, has really been there and really been evident. And some of the work that's come out of it is really fascinating, and we think will help the school just take that next step to innovate or change, which is hugely important in education. Like it's hugely important that we are continually have the mindset of change or innovation rather than just going, hey, this is the way we've always done it, so this is the way we're going to do it from now. There's a big call around the world for education reform or education change, and Bronxville's taking really big steps, leading the way. So I just want to congratulate you guys and update you guys on that as well. Kristen, could you just go into, let's go to the next slide. This is just to let you know, these are the values of our company, and they're sort of the values that apply to all of our work: connect, learn, create, change. And so connectivity is hugely important, and it'll come out in this presentation how Bronxville is, I mean, you're a very connected school, but we can always get better. And so some of the ideas of how you're further connecting all the stakeholders to hear everybody's voices, to listen to everybody. Through connectivity, we learn better. Through connectivity, we create more. So connection's hugely important. We connect to learn. Learn always happens as in a social experience. Learning is like collectively done. It's not really related to the individual, which is an interesting concept to consider. We connect to learn. And so as your design team in Bronxville has been doing, we connect to learn to create together. And so the team has come up with some very, very interesting ideas, which we are now running through prototyping to MVP kind of stage. But we always create together. Creativity doesn't happen by one person. It's always a collective experience. And then we connect to learn, to create, to change, which is like, so change is a very difficult concept for a lot of people to handle and institutions to handle. The way we spin it, we turn it completely the other way, excuse me, and say change is a positive. It's the best thing you can do, because change is life. Life is always in a state of continual change. And so that's really what education is about. That's why we learn. We are learning always to continue to change. And so we encourage the schools to do it and take it on, and you guys have done a fantastic job with it. Kristen, next slide. Thank you. Hey, so this is a tool that we use a lot, and I mean, you can take it and use it in your own organizations. It's a great tool when you're giving a presentation or to just help people focus in on the presentation and keep thinking, what is he saying? What is he saying? What is he saying? It's also a great tool to allow them to just get all their questions out rather than continually going, hey, what, stop there. Or like, while I quite like open discussion, this is more of a presentation kind of forum. So, and it's also a great tool to help people contribute to the conversation. So it's essentially assumptions, questions, insights. Any assumptions that you hear coming, and which is really important for us, anything that I or Kristen say or report back to you that you go, that sounds like an assumption, write it down, because we are always looking for assumptions. We look for assumptions to test, to iterate them. So while we're presenting some data to you today, it's like there is still more stuff that we need to go and do and say, is that actually true? Let's go and test it again. Any questions that you might have, something one of us might say goes, wow, that really makes me think, or I'd like to question that, or whatever it is, write it in that section. And any insights that you have, like what we say, you might go, you know what, I've seen that done in another school, or I've seen that done at my workplace. There's an insight that you can bring to the conversation. So if you've got a piece of paper and pen in front of you, just draw a rough drawing with the Y chart, assumptions, questions, insights, and jot them down in there. If I was with you in person, we'd be sticky noting all over the place, and we'd have them on the walls, and you'd be assumption, questioning, but it's a little hard to do over Zoom. I'm now going to pass to Kristen, who's going to sort of give you a bit of the story of what we've been doing and what we've been discovering. Sorry. Kristen, I can't hear you.
You're on mute, Kristen.
Unmute myself. There we go. Always happens. Thank you for that. Kynan, can you hear me now? Is that all good? Ooh, am I coming through?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you for that. And I would like to really reiterate Kynan's point that working with your students and the staff at Bronxville has been such a joyful experience. And we have just been continually blown away by how they can articulate themselves, their struggles, their successes over this time. And it has been such a pleasure to work with these wonderful young people and the amazing teachers who care for them. So we'll move on. But really, we want to see this as an opportunity to continue to innovate our thinking and our practices and not let this COVID experience go to waste. So see what we can build from it and how we can continue to make Bronxville even better. So the objectives for our project was to look at initially what was sustainable for right now, what help was needed to relieve some of the stress for both students and teachers, what does the future hold for both teachers and students, what have we learnt that can inspire us going forward, how can we continue to foster connectivity and emotional connection between student and faculty, and how might we become more resilient to change and more easily able to pivot our practices and mindsets. So these were the kind of questions that were forming the interviews that we were running and the workshops that we were doing with students and staff. So here you can see, this is just a collation of all of the different major themes that emerged from the interviews. That we can see that community, resilience, learning, that innovation came out really strongly, that there was a lot of empathy for each other, there was vulnerability. Mental health was a really big issue that came up in a lot of the interviews, and this desire for connection and wanting to build community and have that positive mindset. So I'd like to move to the executive summary of the data. So it was overwhelming that over this period, faculty and student relationships have been solidified, that empathy for each other continued to grow and was valued by both parties, that resilience was demonstrated across the board, from faculty and students demonstrating resilient practices. However, it did come out that many still feel vulnerable. Community connection was highly valued and craved by both teachers and faculty. The need for more experiences to build and shape community within Bronxville and within the wider Bronxville community as well. We saw fantastic examples from innovation. COVID-19 has encouraged faculty to be more innovative in their teaching practice, and this was extremely welcomed by the students. We saw that there was an appetite in the school community to reimagine aspects of scheduling. And we know that some of those things have happened in the school and that they are continuing to be talked about and discussed. And that culture was really valued and important, and that we must find new ways of continuing to reimagine school traditions and celebrations because they were extremely important to both faculty and students. So I'd like to just take you through just a little example of one of the activities that we did, because I think it's a really powerful way to understand the feelings of teachers and students. And this was an activity where we asked the participants to write a letter to themselves reflecting on their COVID time. And I would like to just take a few minutes to share some of these with you because I think they're really beautiful.
Sorry, not to over talk over you. This was an activity that actually we took the participants back and said, go back to yourself prior to COVID and write a letter to yourself saying, this is what you're about to go through. Get yourself ready for it. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Kynan. Dear me, there are going to be a few hard months in front of you. There will be some tough blows, physically, mentally, and academically. What you will see, though, is that you will make it out for the better. Time heals all wounds, and the experiences you're dealt with now will make you stronger in the future. You will learn new ways to study, learn, and create. You will learn that it's okay to ask for help when you need it. You will learn that it's okay to just put life on pause for a moment and breathe. More than anything, you'll learn that there will be others there for you during this time. Parents, teachers, friends, and administrators. I won't lie and say it will be easy, but nothing good ever happened from things that were easy. It's the difficult things that make us far stronger. Dear me, the past 12 months have been really eye-opening as a teacher, and I'm sure also as a student. Trying to manage a class virtually and making sure that all my students' needs are being met was very stressful. But as time passed, working together with my students and my colleagues, it became easier or more manageable per se. Understanding that we are all in this together helps build a sense of virtual community which was not visible predicted at the beginning of the crisis. I believe that I have become a more effective teacher and collaborator as I work together with my colleagues to find different ways to help our students. One of the many things I will carry on to further experiences is to continue to be resilient for myself and my students, be more understanding of different situations that may occur in a particular student's life, and apathy with his or her situation. The use of technology is an amazing tool, but at the same time, it can be overwhelming. Adaptation is the key. Dear me, throughout the next 12 months, you are going to learn how to adapt and flexible you are. You will not only learn how to use the Zoom platform that you will spend many hours a day on, but you will also have to figure out how to connect with your teachers and peers through a computer screen. Although this may sound challenging, you will become used to it after a few months. You will have to change your entire mentality towards work. While you enjoy your classes, at some point you will feel the result of burnout. It will be a grind, but you will have to hold on to that desire to succeed in order to keep pushing yourself. You will watch TikTok in class when you're online and will miss out on that lesson because you were too busy listening to music. You must refocus. Keep in touch with friends, even though it is hard to think of others when you struggle to help yourself. And this is the last one. Dear me, if only you knew what you were capable of. You were always the first to doubt yourself, and when you look back, you tend to blow your own mind. This past year, you learned how resilient you are, how vulnerability can take you far. You also learned to be more empathetic than ever with yourself and your students. Despite the terrible historical and unprecedented events you lived through, you see every day the beauty of the human spirit. You see it in the eyes of your students, in the smiling faces of your colleagues, and at the reflection that stares at you in the mirror. Keep on keeping on. Love me. And I hope you enjoyed listening to those because we found it such a powerful activity and were just blown away by the vulnerability that people showed and the reflection that they were able to show on the experiences they've been through and the challenges and the successes they had. So I'd now like to break down the emerging themes that came through from the data in a little more detail. So the first emerging theme was around mindset. We noticed that overwhelmingly a lot of students were struggling with their mental health, that were feeling the effects of burnout, but had demonstrated a lot of resilient practices, both students and staff, and that there had been a real shift towards this understanding of vulnerability and empathy between faculty and students, and that was bringing people together and had been really welcomed by all. The second theme was around that of culture, that the customs and extracurricular activities were highly valued and that these had been passed down from generations of students, and they felt that they were being missed out on, and people really placed a lot of value and desire to see these come back. We saw that people wanted that sense of community, that to many Bronxville was the home base that they needed during this time, that people were craving connection and that the online world didn't always allow for that, but many found ways and means to do it and found the connection within the Bronxville community. And that sports were highly missed by both students and faculty alike, but that was a constant recurring theme that people missed athletics and all other aspects of sport and having that way to connect to each other. The third theme was around teaching and learning. Many people felt that assessment was something that needs to be reevaluated within the school, that there is opportunities around the logistics to imagine new ways of doing those, particularly around scheduling. And I know Xbox has been really popular within the school. That classroom experiences have changed. For some, remote learning was a real breeze, but for many, it was a struggle. And learning how we can do that better going forward is something that we will continue to work on. And that the staff reported seeing a real jump in student skills and practices and their ability to work independently and have greater autonomy and ownership over their work was something that over the time period they saw really develop, and that many students were able to thrive within this new environment. There's that appetite for scheduling changes and future thinking. How can we do this differently from now on? What pieces of this puzzle do we want to take with us forward into the next school year? And I think definitely worth celebrating many of the fantastic innovations that the teachers were able to deliver during this time in such a quick turnaround. We understand there is still room for improvement in some of those aspects, but overwhelmingly, the students were extremely receptive to the innovative practices that teachers were putting in place during this time. People have been able to use a whole new wide range of tools and have had to adapt to those. There was definitely a sense of loss around some of the things that particularly students and seniors in particular have missed out on, though it sounds like we're doing everything to catch up we can in the last 6 weeks of school. And there was also a large amount of hope from the whole school community that we've learned a lot, that we are more empathetic and compassionate to each other, and that we can take these lessons forward to continue to build a fantastic school that supports all students. So these are some of the questions that we're left with, that we're still working with Anne to further develop. And that's just, how might we capitalize on the innovative momentum in the school? How might we create spaces for people to share stories? It's been so wonderful hearing the student perspective, and we'd like to continue this as we move forward. How might we change school structures in light of the learning from COVID-19? How do we create structures to build student-to-student empathy and relationships across the school? And how might we encourage community building within our local area? And we have a few ideas and prototypes that we're working on.
Sabrina,
and
I dropped it.
Would you like to just jump in and talk a little bit about some of those prototypes we're working on?
Sure. So as I mentioned, some of this work with NRUSC began last year in August. And what's been fascinating, as last year we were looking into the status quo of the school, which is just the current state of the school, and how we might innovate. Some of the ideas that we were developing last year really connect to strong themes that have come out of the COVID experience. So the themes of community, connection, relationships, building empathy and compassion for each other, connecting outside of the classroom, outside of athletics. Where do we create those spaces for students that break down grade level divisions and divisions between friend groups and really build a greater sense of community? So there were 4 prototypes that came out of last year that we're actually taking some of this COVID data and moving forward this spring and into the fall. One was around how we look at field trips, but we call it actually in our work here field experiences, which are really ways that students go outside of the building and have a learning experience together and make sense of it with faculty, and how those can be co-planned and might cross disciplines and not just be within one class or discipline. These are the types of things that kids remember after high school. These really meaningful, memorable experiences outside the building. Another that we're thinking about, not like middle school advisory, but how do we create a space where students might form a relationship with a teacher over the 4 years of high school, and with a group of students that might be 9th through 12th graders. And that would be a space where, community would be built, and we could do something like have field experiences. Just learning together, learning from each other, and having conversations that connect one another and show empathy and compassion for one another. Another group has been looking at extra help and sort of how do we reimagine it in a way that's more useful to students and builds what Kynan was talking about earlier, these collaborative relationships between people versus I need to go ask my teacher this question and only my teacher can give me help or the answer. And I think the technology that we've been using this last year has really opened up our eyes to what might be possible. And then finally, it's funny, last year, Kynan will remember this. This happens to be the group I was a part of. We were talking about this idea of an X block, and we kept saying, like, I don't think anyone is going to be interested in this. This is a crazy idea. Meanwhile, as we all know, everyone loves X block. Our idea was a little bit different than the current X block. But how do we create time in the day where people do something other than a class or a club? They just do something together because they're curious, they want to be together, they have a passion. And in that time, no grades are given. It doesn't go on your transcript or resume. You're just doing it because it's actually worth spending time in the day doing something you enjoy with other people. So hopefully you can see in these 4 ideas that we're continuing to work on, the themes that Kristen shared from the COVID experience, which are really like, how do we create a strong sense of community? How do we connect students to each other, students to teachers, and just really build on the wonderful things that are important in Bronxville and make it even stronger going forward. So that's just a quick overview. And these are projects we're working on right now and prototyping little ideas to see how they might work in our system.
Thanks, Anne. That's terrific. And Kynan, would you like to just do the final piece of our presentation today?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks, Anne, and thanks, Kristen. One of the things I really love about like that, some of the data that's coming out is because our role really is to help you. Like instead of going, okay, we've done this 12 months. We can't wait to just go back there because that's essentially stasis. Like, no, let's take what we've done and keep moving forward. So that's that innovative mindset essentially. And so I opened by talking how difficult change was, but I can really see through some of the data that people are realizing. What the one thing COVID has shown people is the need to adapt and need to change and need to do it quickly, need to pivot quite quickly. What have you got in place to do that? And do you have the mindset and the abilities to do that? And so it's starting to come into your, not only in your senior leadership, but it's also starting to come in through your students and teachers from having just gone through this experience. Like I really love the comment, adaptation is the key. Someone wrote that, that's an insight for him that he gained over the last 12 months. It's like, the lights go on. Actually, it's good to be able to adapt really quickly. The empathy piece is huge as well, which is really wonderful. Like empathy is a word that flies around education all the time, but like it's just one of those buzzwords. When you really understand empathy, like it's about, it's actually about the kids being able to listen to each other better, the kids being able to listen to themselves better, to understand, or kids and teachers, sorry, to understand what's stopping me from listening to the other better. And so when kids can do that, they can have empathy for each other, they can have empathy for their teachers. And it really came out in some of these sessions where we had teachers and students all in the same session, and you created the space where they could be vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, stuff just started coming out, which helped them listen better to each other. So like some teachers would say, well, I just actually got to say, like I've worked incredibly hard over the last 12 months. There has been times where it's just been very difficult and I felt like I just don't know what I'm doing, because it's such a huge shift and I'm really letting you down. And the kids would go, I thought we were letting you down. Like I thought you were always disappointed in us. So just having the ability to hear each other like that tightens the connection, which means the learning always gets better. So that's a really beautiful thing. How might we make Bronxville known as the school that listens is one of the goals, I reckon. So the last thing that we'd really like you to do is just so that you can contribute your voices as well. If you have any questions and answers and assumptions, can you just pop them into the chat? Just pop them into the chat. You don't have to put your name. Oh, actually, your name's going to come up, but it doesn't matter. Like just like with the students and teachers are learning to be vulnerable, this is a chance to just go bang and put it out there. We don't care what comes out. That's just more data for us, which is really, really useful. So anything you've got, like just quick, put it in the chat. The second thing is this amplify, change, ditch, and this is really, really important. So when we this tool, what we're essentially looking at is, okay, from the presentations that we've gone, from your own experiences, from your own insights over the last 12 months, what are some of the things that you notice? And this is where you're kind of getting granular. Like, what are some of the things that you notice that you go, wow, there's something really good in that. If we can name it, we can amplify that. Let's just keep doing more of that because that was amazing. What are some of the things that you noticed was like, you know, that we do this, I'm not sure why it's valuable, but like, you know, it's, we probably need to change it to get it a little bit better. So what are some of the things that we could amplify? What are some of the things that we need to change? And the last one is really, really important. It's really important for schools and teachers and educators who just keep doing more and more stuff. We can actually stop doing some stuff, which is always a really great thing. You know, you don't need to do that anymore. Just allowing people the ability to stop is really important. So what are some of the things that you have noticed, or that you think about in regards to helping school move on that we could just potentially ditch or just stop doing altogether? So I'm just going to give you 2 or 3 minutes. If you could just pop all that in the chat, that would be really, really useful to us.
I was just going to mention that the Amplify Change Ditch was an activity we did with the students and the faculty in these sessions. And it's where some of these themes came from. So like, and maybe people are afraid to put some of that because I'm on the call, but this is how we learn. We have to, you know, again, be vulnerable. Like what, you know, what's been going on during COVID that we would love to do more of, that has been really important, or that, you know, maybe was working a little bit, but we might want to change, or like Kynan said, just get rid of. So this would be really helpful to us. We want to hear parent feedback. So this was kind of a venue to get that. We've gotten a lot of faculty and a lot of students. We've run, I think, 4 focus group sessions with different students and faculty, but we haven't had a chance to get parent feedback. So please share. And we can keep, parents, you can keep adding to it as we finish out the meeting, because I know Kynan and Kristen aren't necessarily going to stay the rest of the meeting, and there's other announcements. But, you know, as things come to your mind, or you want to send me an email, anything like that that really comes to mind from this presentation that you want us to think about or be aware of. Or you can send it to Kristen or Kynan. Their email just went into the chat. Thanks, Kristen.
And if anybody loses any of those emails, feel free to just send it to the high school PTA email address, which you get all the agendas and announcements from, and I will be happy to forward those on as well.
I'm happy to open it up to questions if anybody had any.
Okay, again, go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm not sure that, that I don't know, like, I don't know if you're looking for specific questions, you know, at the time. One thing that popped up to me that I noticed was, I love that idea of, you talked about advisory and like a faculty member. One thing I think, and I've been meaning to say this, so see, here you go, is when I went to high school a long time ago, but when I went to a huge high school, our counselors, my counselor probably had at least 400 students or more, probably more. And she knew each and every one of us in a remarkable way. And she started that relationship in 9th. And I probably saw her certainly monthly. And of course, as we got going, you know, and it wasn't just about school, right? You know, she really got to know me, and and this was not just me specifically. And I just feel like that's something that would be really I think we'd be able to do that in this school. And I think when we reach out, we get great response from the counseling department. So to be very clear, but I just think that is a piece of that advisory that might be interesting to explore. It just was also a safe spot that kids would go into their counselors whenever they needed a talk. I used to go in and they'd write a note if I was late to class because I had something really heavy and big that I needed to talk about. And I just feel that's missing a little bit here.
Mhm.
And then the other piece on a totally separate note with counseling is, and I don't know if this may be a specific situation to this year, which I can see that being, but there's a lot of work to get these seniors applications into college. But then I feel like there's very little work on the backside of kids get these acceptances, and there's no discussion and help with where are you going to pick and how you're going to pick and where you're going to go. So kind of like we do a great job of getting them in. And then, but then we heard nothing from our counselor once Rain was in, his choices were there, but then it was kind of silent. That might be because of the circumstance surrounding his counselor this year, but just a couple things that popped into my head.
Great. Thank you. Feel free to put in the chat. Thank you, Amy.
So
And again, just these adults that students can connect with and touch base with, absolutely. And I think, we do have a unique, just to be perfectly honest, some of our students are afraid to do that with their counselor because that's the person writing their recommendation for college. That's what we've heard from some students. So, I think we want to be mindful of whether it's the counselor or other adults in the building, who do kids have to go to? And making sure that they're feeling, supported, but also by other students. So in any case, we could keep going on. And I know, Margaret, there's other things to do, but please share with us your thoughts or email Kristen and Kynan.
I'm looking at the chat and there seems to be one question that's relevant to ask as a question as opposed to just feedback.
Sure,
for
sure.
us. How many students participated in the discussions? And I guess also how were they chosen?
I think we did 4 feedback sessions, and initially we started with a group of students that we reached out to who are quote unquote leaders in the school. And we actually, after 1 or 2 of those, thought about how they may have had a particular experience during COVID. And so we actually asked teachers for students who may have struggled more significantly during COVID. And we had a specific feedback session with those students so that we could get as many different perspectives as possible. I would say, Kristen, what do you think? 45 students, maybe 45 or 50 students?
Yeah, I would have said at least 50, I think. Yeah. And I think quite a cross section of different year groups and different positions within the school and different personalities, definitely.
Yeah,
And
I'd
then
say there was like 50 students. Sorry, my internet just died, so I'm on my phone. I'd say there was about 50 students, and there was about the number of staff was very, very high as well, which is really important. And we've got a few more to go too. So this is why we're encouraging you to add your data into it as well. So we always consider this reporting thing to be it's in a continual state of prototyping as well. Like, we think this is what they're saying, let's go out and test it again. So which is giving us an opportunity to hone down our themes really well as we present them back to kids.
And I'll just say that in general, I think the feedback process has been very meaningful. And so something that's come out of it is, how do we build this process into our work so that we're asking for, from different groups of students, how their experience is and how can we improve. So I think that generally has also been important.
And we also presented to the student faculty as well.
And I like Leah, I think, Leah, we presented to SFL, but Leah, I hear what you're saying in terms of how do we reach out to more people. And that's exactly what we ran into when we started doing these. It's like, okay, this is a great group, but who does this represent? And who else do we need to hear from? And so I think that's something we're considering as well. Who else, what other feedback would we want to hear? And again, I think this mindset, which Kynan's work has really helped me understand, this design thinking mindset, is that you don't end up ever really having a product You're always constantly testing what you're putting out there and asking for feedback. And so it's not like this is a final presentation and now we're done and now we learned about COVID, right? So it's like we want to take the parent perspective and weave it in and then ask ourselves, who are we missing? And then bring that back out and ask for more. And again, then how does this become a process that's regular, that we're always doing and having in our mind? So just to give people a sense of how this as an idea is something we want to infuse more into the school as well. And there's never really a final presentation. It's always gathering more feedback. So.
Yeah, continual iteration to learn.
Go ahead. Jim, you had a question? You need to take yourself off mute, Jim.
Yeah, the only question I had was the middle school. So 6 high school girls last night, and I know, presented to the middle school about the social, these social applications, and they did an incredible job because they've been through it all. They saw it all, and it was. I smiled because it was 6 girls. No boys were willing to, do the test, but they walked through what the 6th graders experienced, what the 8th graders experienced, and then what the high schoolers see. And for me, involving the kids and empowering them to tell us here's the awkward bits, here's the things you should be afraid of. I immediately went to my kids and said, have you heard of these very scary things? Like, yeah, Dad, that's, yesterday's news. But I thought in empowering the kids and I'm sure you're doing this in this process, was incredibly valuable, because then they said, look, because you're asking me, I would never do X or I'd never do Y, because I know that's off the rails. And so I guess the only thing I would say in this or future things, and giving the kids, especially the high schoolers, some are very mature and not mature. Well, it's mature life experiences, but in advice they can give would be very helpful throughout the school, not just in high school.
That's very helpful. Go ahead, Kylie.
Yeah, hugely helpful, Jim. And thanks for those words. And it's hugely key part of the work that we do and the work that we're doing with Bronxville too is how might we increase student voice? That's the empathy piece. So learn to listen to them, so everybody's voice is valued and everybody's voice is almost is equal coming through. And so when we do that, like when we create those environments, some of this stuff can really, really come out, and it's really fascinating. And you're right, and it empowers the students and it increases their sense of worth. Oh, they want to listen to us. That kind of approach, which is, some of the most powerful insights actually came from. We realized that the first couple of groups that we had were all of a particular personality typing. They were what's the word?
Type A.
Type A. They're go-getters. They're just going to lead everything, and they're going to take on, and they're set. But then we realized we shouldn't assume that this is representative of everybody, and so we then set up another session with, I guess, some of the quieter kids, some of the quieter kids, or whose whose voices are not particularly loud, and maybe they're isolated, whatever. We got them into the session, and then when they were all together, and some of the tools that we use are particularly good at allowing for this sort of stuff in the way we facilitate. When they felt comfortable, the insights and sharing that came from that group was incredibly powerful and stuff we hadn't heard before. It's like, well, actually, I actually really enjoyed all the online classes, and I'd love school to always be online, and so there's something in that which I think as a school we need to capture and consider moving forward. Like what are the innovations that have happened in pockets that we are now discovering that we can actually capture and benchmark for Bronxville and say, now we're moving here. It also, this process really helps to overcome, I think it's helping to overcome a lot of the negative narrative that's been in the media of this has been a disaster. No learning has happened. Schools are hopeless with this stuff, where it's like, no, they're not. Like, they've actually done an amazing job, and they've actually done amazing innovation, and they've changed. Like, the teachers are changing the way they think and changing their practices, and that's an amazing thing. And that's what we're also trying to capture to just create a new narrative that's not that super negative one.
Super.
Thank you. Thanks, Kynan and Kristen. We'll keep the dialogue going. To your point, Leah, including more parents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you so much. That was an incredibly uplifting presentation, and it's a nice way to end the high school council meeting. So I'm glad we could do it on such a positive note, looking at all the challenges and how we've overcome them, and really kind of found the silver lining and everything to make it a better experience for everyone going forward. So thank you very much for all your hard work. Next, we have Aaron Kind, our Director of Counseling, to speak.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, thank you. Good evening, everybody. On another uplifting note, hold on, let me just, last time I was here, I think we were just about to move into our new building, our new space. Let me just hit present, hold on. So I took some pictures because we are now in a new space. So this is kind of like when you walk in the door, this is the sort of seating area of the new counseling department. The registrar, Ms. Silvis, is not there, but that's her desk to the right. And that is in fact a student in our office, which we now have enough room to accommodate. So this, I think, young man was waiting for one of the counselors. This is Ms. H's office, Ms. Hassan Jakai, and you can see that there's now more than 6 feet of distance. So again, students have been coming in. And then just quickly through the rest of the spaces, this is Ms. Zelikoff's office. This is Ms. Cohen's office and those beautiful windows if you walk past Meadow Avenue. And this is my office with the beautiful bay windows and the nice seating there as well. So I just realized that, sorry, hold on one second. Let me just get everybody back here. Oh, okay. There we go. It's very strange to have this new space and not be able to welcome all of you. So I wanted to give you a window into that. Yeah, definitely a big change. So that is new. Also keeping in line with this theme of like students sharing with students. Just yesterday, we had seniors speak to the juniors about, to Amy's point, applying to college. Another sort of high level takeaway is up until this point, the seniors were the only people that have applied to college during the pandemic. So now it looks like the juniors are going to go through somewhat of a similar process. So we had, I think it was like 6 or 7 seniors speak to the juniors. And I think just before this meeting, I sent that recording out to all the junior class students and parents. We finished up our freshman transition program just a few weeks ago with a big pizza celebration on the front lawn. Also, one of the first times that we got a group of students together to feed them this year. So that was exciting. We are in the process of figuring out what we're going to do for next year's freshman transition leaders. As you may recall, if you've had students in the school before, this is a program that's very much built on community and in-person meetings. So this past year was unique to say the least. But Deanna Hassan Jakai, one of the counselors, Tom Viviano, the high school psychologist, and Bill Meyer, one of the history teachers, all came together and organized, designed, and definitely innovated on this year's program. And so I think around June 1st, we're going to send something out again to the juniors about if they want to become a senior leader for next year. So you can be on the lookout for that. The other piece I wanted to mention is in terms of scheduling for next year, we've had about, I'd say 99% of those meetings. And so if you haven't met with your child's counselor, please reach out to either me or her or them to to do so. As Anne and I finalize the master schedule, if things are not fitting together nicely, your child's counselor will be in touch sometime in June. And then lastly, again, last time I mentioned with the help of Be Well, who I don't think any of the committee members are here, but we are thankful for their support this year in many different facets, specifically in regards to their work with the CBC group. They are helping us bring in somebody from CBC to run 3 DBT skills workshops in the coming weeks. So that's going to be May 12th, where we're going to talk about mindfulness. June 2nd, we're going to the psychologist, I should say, will speak about emotional resiliency and self-care. And June 9th, the session titled is Feeling Accomplished and Breaking Down Large Tasks. And so those are obviously, again, going to be on Zoom during X Block. Links and all that good stuff will go out to the students as the date approaches, and I'll start doing some PR for that in the days to come. And that's kind of it from the counseling office. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much, Aaron. Next, we have Joe Haven talking about spring sports.
Good evening, everyone. We're off and flying. It's awesome outside. If you've been outside now since the beginning of spring season, both our fields are fully used constantly. It's great. The transition right from 3 o'clock on is outstanding. Seeing all the kids out there performing, and really it's almost back to normal athletically. Besides seeing masks on kids, you would never know that things are different. So that's great. We finally got back. We've been very fortunate to be in school the whole time, full time, and now the kids are really at it competing. Tomorrow we have our Fall 2 Awards ceremony, and that will be streamed our YouTube channel. And that's football and girls diving, swim and dive. We had a big lacrosse game today. The girls beat Suffern. It was outstanding. The boys had a big win yesterday in baseball. So our teams are really off, and we have pretty decent numbers. We'd love to see the participation. I always want to see more kids participating. Track, like usual, has probably between the 2 teams, probably has about 65, 70 kids participating on, and this is the varsity level. Modified a little bit smaller, but the kids tend to go to that as we move on. But we're very excited. And as Ann said, we are trying to move games around, all the testing that goes on. Ann and Aaron gave me a schedule of all the activities. So now currently on a schedule, there may be a game on an SAT day, but we are working with the others, AP day. We are working with the other schools trying to coordinate. And obviously it's a little harder to do because we have a shortened time period, but we're really trying to move, our games around to meet the needs of what the students have. And as I said to Ann, I don't want to see any kid miss a game because of an AP test. So we're really doing the best that we can so they can concentrate on their test first and play their game second. We haven't set a date yet for the spring awards. It's gonna be a little trickier because of all Ann's activities that she mentioned earlier. We're gonna be mixing and matching some award ceremonies for the end of the season. But it's a great problem to have. Anytime we can highlight children and give them accolades, we're looking forward to doing that. And I've been asked many times already, we have not received any fall schedules yet. I get asked a lot about homecoming. I was told in the next week and a half to 2 weeks, the fall schedules will be out. And then that way I'll work with Ann and we'll figure out what works best for the district here for the homecoming for the fall. But no, those are not out to us yet.
For people planning on doing fall sports, are you planning on having a preseason that kids need to be back for?
Sorry, it'll be traditional fall. I mean, we've not heard anything different yet. So traditional fall season. So in mid-August, we'll start our games or our practices. I will say this, our conference is talking about maybe starting the modified sports a little bit later into the school year, but the varsity sports will definitely start before school starts. Usually right around that third Monday of August. We'll start, and well in advance, we'll have all the schedules up, all the practice locations and times, so everybody knows what's happening. And now, physicals have to be up to date. We have a little bit of break on physicals this year, but for next school year, they have to be up and running and full go. And like I said, we're fingers are crossed that, when 2021 fall starts, it'll be like 2019 fall. So hopefully we full go, full participation of spectators. I will say I really appreciate our parents. Most of the parents, the guideline on school grounds is whether you have the vaccine or not, you have to wear a mask. I know it's different in other places, but on school grounds it's still that way. So we had the spectators here from Suffering, and they were great about it, and our parents were great about it. And listen, I know sometimes it's a little uncomfortable, but we're allowing our parents to watch our kids, which is awesome. It's been always, Roy's really been in favor of having people at games, and now they're there. We also have local live still. Some schools aren't using it as much now because obviously people can show up and be there in person, but our games still will always be streamed for now for the folks who are not local. So that's great for our kids. And we're trying to work with baseball about getting some baseball games streamed also, because obviously they're one sport right now besides golf that they're not streaming events.
Okay. With respect to the fall, I believe some sports require you to be there for people with younger kids who are looking to play varsity. For preseason, you're required to go to preseason in order to make varsity. Is that the case for all fall sports?
Absolutely, because there's a minimum number of practices you need before your first game. So for varsity sports, you have to be there. In our JV sports also, because the state does have requirement. It's a minimum of 6 practices. And then for football, it's usually 10 practices before you can start participating in your first game. And you'll see that and that's the way schedules are built. The schedules are built. Usually what they do is by day number 8 for all other sports, a game is scheduled. And usually by day 11 or 12, football scheduled. So there's not much leeway in there for the varsity level.
Okay, so just a heads up for anybody who's looking to pay JV or varsity next year, you should look at the preseason schedule to make sure you take that into account before everyone goes flying away in August and then is unable to play the sport they'd like to. Okay, thank you so much, Joe. I know everyone's excited about the spring sports, and it's going to be beautiful out there, so it'll be nice to be able to get people out watching the games as well. We're going to move on to our grade chairs to give the grade updates. 9th grade. I know I saw Laura. I'm not sure if I saw Katie.
I'm here. Good, good evening. The 9th grade student council organized an event last Saturday to clean up the Scottsfield Bronx River. It was a great turnout, and the kids all had fun doing it. So the 9th grade student council are planning a autism walk for the awareness day in this month or next month. So detail will be announced when it's finalized. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and I believe for all 9th graders, there's going to be like pizza there. So it will be a fun, festive social event. So encourage all 9th graders to attend the autism walk. 10th grade. I know I saw Sarah. Did I not see Sarah?
She might have left to pick up her kids.
Okay. I swear she was just there a second ago. And Jen McGrath's not on either. Okay. 10th grade updates. They had a March Madness bracket back in March, and it went extremely well. That is all I have for 10th grade. For 11th grade, they weren't able to attend tonight. They wanted me to pass on that they are helping to organize Promenade for prom, and they are currently selling tickets for prom this week. And really, I want to give a shout out to the 9th graders because they're planning all of this and they are not able to go to prom. So thank you for all your hard work, and hopefully it will pay off next year when you get to go to prom and don't have to do any work. Lastly, we have our 12th grade chairs to talk about our fabulous 12th senior events.
Hello. We are off and running on the senior stuff. The main focus right now, well, first of all, in the past, I think it was the week before last, we handed out, the class officers handed out the class blankets, and everybody got a blanket just as they had done last year. You know, says done by Kelly Patterson, really soft jersey material, and you know, Bronxville class of 2021. So they loved those. They were all excited about those. Looking forward, we're, in a rush of planning because, now it is apparent we kind of kept putting stuff off for senior week to try to figure out what the format of it was going to be. We are thankfully in a position where we can hold almost everything in person. Even the speakers who can't actually be at the school in person can Zoom with the students there in person. So at least they can be there together and feel like a part of a community. So we're excited about that. And that's really in the works now. And the senior class officers have been really helpful in that. They've taken a more active role in it than they have in the past, in part because they had opinions of what they wanted it to look like. We will send out, I'd say the next week and a half or so, we're going to be locking everything down. And when that's done, you guys will receive, all the parents of seniors will receive an email with all the details and the specific schedule. The one thing I think that's been disappointing to some parents is we had to drop the mom prom and pop hop. And as most of you know, it's it's something that's not sponsored by the school, but it is organized with parents and graduating seniors. Earlier in the year, we didn't think it was going to be able to happen, but we did reserve a date at both Siwanoy and the Field Club in order to just in case. And it turned out that date was the date that APs got moved to. So it was May 26th, and now the students will be taking APs then, and we just didn't think that was appropriate to continue with it, given that. And additionally, we looked into changing the date, but there's, as Anne has mentioned, and Joe has mentioned, there's just so much being pushed into those last few weeks that it's just not it's not really reasonable. And it's kind of asking, we felt it was kind of asking a little too much of the kids too. We didn't take a survey of the grade, but we did talk to the class officers and our own children, and most of them said they'd rather go without that than risk that there was a case and people had to be quarantined around prom, around other events that they're like really excited to be able to have. I think that covers it. Jane, anything I'm missing? Whoops, you're muted.
Jane, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I would just add that since restrictions have been, partially lifted, it looks like we will have the all-night party and breakfast. And I know this isn't a school-sponsored event, but I just mentioned it, that just rest assured there will be lots of exciting social activities for the seniors. They're going to have an amazing 2 months ahead of them. And it's just going to be fabulous. And
and lots of volunteer opportunities.
And lots of volunteer opportunities, exactly. So.
If I'm allowed to show up, Nate always tells me I am not allowed to volunteer because
I know
it's embarrassing to have your mom there. But yeah. As the parent of a senior, thank you so very much for all the hard work that you guys are doing.
Oh, you're welcome. And honestly, like the graduation and the party committee, they're working like crazy now because everything was sort of on hold, and now with everything changing so quickly, they're trying to lock down things. So, but they're working hard.
Thank you so much. One request on the chat was the link for the tux rental. If you could resend that, apparently a bunch of parents are asking for that.
Okay.
If they're anything like me who needs to get it done and hasn't done it yet, it would help from having to scroll back through hundreds of emails. So
I think that was originally, was that sent by Beth Ahern, or is that Jean? Is that us?
That wasn't us, but we don't send anything out. I feel like we ask you to send them out, right, Margaret?
I think Cindy sent it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was sent. Yeah, it was sent a while ago, and I've actually had a few people ask me, and I'm not gonna lie, I tried to scroll through and find it, and I couldn't. But it was not sent from Jane. It was not
circle
from
back on that.
Jane.
Okay,
We'll get it done.
It and it will be included in the parent packet that goes out about the graduation packet. I believe Beth, it will mention that it will be included, the form and everything in there with all the information of the two. It's basically San Marco and Giovanni are the two places.
Right. I think I have it somewhere. I can send it to you, Amy, because I believe there's one of the locations gives you a discount if you do a tux for both prom and graduation. So.
Okay. Yeah, I just had like maybe 4 or 5 people ask me, and I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I
no,
just
we can figure out how to blast it again. No worries.
Okay. Thank you.
If you need me to do it, just let me know. I'm happy to send it.
Okay.
Okay, so those are our grade chair updates. We have Leah Gravier. She is going to speak about, we have fabulous PTA sponsored Memorial Day events, and she is going to give us the lowdown on everything we can look forward to.
Hi, everyone. Yes, there's one more event to add to the busy schedule of the spring, which is we're bringing back our Memorial Day celebration with modified from our usual events. This year we're moving everything a week ahead, so we're having a food truck night on May 22nd. Right now the tickets have been paused because we had such a burst of sales that we got a little nervous that we weren't going to have enough food trucks and meals to accommodate everyone, but it looks like we're going to be able to reopen sales maybe tomorrow. We've kind of figured out the numbers, and with a little tweaking, we're going to add an hour of time to the event time so that there's more time for the trucks to serve their food. So that will be great. We're also bringing back the Memorial Day run, but this year we're going to do it virtually. It was just, as everyone is saying, when you start planning these events and you don't know what you can do, you do what you can. So we decided to make the run a virtual run, and we're going to ask people to register, and then when they finish their run, to send us their images of the photos of their finish, and we'll post them on our Instagram page, where the elementary school is going to have a kids dollar raffle again, and there will be an actual live apparel sale the week of May 25th through 28th. And all of this, all of these things are raising money for a project that the PTA is working on right now to dedicate benches all around the school property like to commemorate this year that we've all lived through together, and to thank all of us who were involved, the parents, the faculty, the teachers, the administration. So we're hoping to get at least 6 benches placed all around campus by the end of the school year. And so please, once tickets go back on sale, if you can't buy a ticket for Memorial Day food truck night, do the virtual run, and all the proceeds are going towards benches, which we'll place around school. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leah. Okay, we're running longer than usual, so I'm just gonna run through all this quickly. I don't see anyone on bold. Is there anyone on bold? On? No. Okay, so just a quick update. Their monthly bold conversations, 7 p.m. via Zoom, are on May 12th.
Margaret, can I just break in?
Yes.
There's actually a huge bold event, which is coming up on May 18th, and that's Dr. Ned Hollowell.
May 19th.
May 19th, yeah, is coming. Yeah, it's May 19th at 7 p.m. One email has already gone out, and I don't know if anyone knows, if anyone has anyone in their life who has ADHD, or just he's a pretty well-known doctor in the field of that research, and he's just an amazing speaker, an amazing energy, and I think it's well worth anyone attending this event. It's open to everyone, and we hope a lot of people come and participate, because we're so excited that we even got him to come to the school. So that'll be May 19th, and his name's Ned Hollowell. The book, he just came out with a new book called ADHD 2.0.
Thank you, Leah. And then, so with regard to the bold conversations, so sibling rivalry on May 12th and early intervention on June 9th. For Be Well, Erin already discussed the CBC workshops for grades 9 through 12. I don't believe there's anything else. And then the Bronxville Foundation wanted me to thank the community for their generosity to the foundation. And they are wrapping up this year's grant cycle and have a great slate of grant applications ranging from technology to science to athletics to performing arts. So they're looking forward at looking at those and investing in our school for the coming years. So thank you very much to the Bronxville Foundation. One quick update. With respect to the PTA recognition tea, huge typo. That is actually going to be on May 26th, not June 26th. So that is Bronco TV. Mr. Doyle and his students are putting together a video. Thank you to all the parents who helped us put together the speeches in recognizing the honorees. The video will be presented to the teachers on May 26th, and afterwards the video will be sent out and available to parents and students and anyone else who is interested in watching it, because we have quite a list of teachers who've been here for a long time and a very, very long list of retirees this year who I'm sure many of us are very, very grateful for their hard work over the years. And then one small little tidbit, on June 14th, during the high school awards assembly, we're going to be able to serve bagels or pizza or something like that. But the yearbooks are also going to be given out that day. Just give your kids a heads up. I believe last meeting we discussed the time capsule that the PTA is hoping to do. There will be a yearbook out there for students to sign. That will go into the time capsule. So I'll have a sign up or something so they know which yearbook to sign, so that they can include their own personal message with respect to COVID to go into the time capsule if they are so interested.
Margaret, thank
yeah.
you for reminding me about the time capsule. I just want to give one more piece of information. There's going to be a few emails coming out to the whole community for more materials to add into the time capsule. We're going to collect all the materials for the time capsule between now and the end of May, and we're going to present the time capsule at the end of the school year to give us time to get it all pulled together. But we're going to be sending out prompts for people to submit writing samples, asking for photos, and also we're going to come out with questions on like lists of things that, you know, for example, what did your family, what did your family watch on Netflix during, questions like that, so that we get kind of an idea of how our community handled the lockdown and all that time. So those things you'll be seeing from the PTA coming out within the next week or so.
And as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, this is our last high school council meeting. So mostly I just wanted to say thank you to the administration, the faculty, all the volunteers who have been working this year to kind of make it all come together, particularly everyone on my executive council, my grade chairs, my treasurer, my secretary, and most important, Amy Weiser, the PTA chair, high school chair for next year. I wanted her to end the meeting and say hi. So thank you everyone for showing up and listening to me ramble mostly. And it is now yours, Amy. Thank you.
Listen, I tell you, I kind of shot myself in the foot when Margaret called me, a year ago and said, hey, Amy, would you do this? And, Margaret's one of the very few people that I cannot say no to. And hence here I am, but huge shoes to fill. You'll be missed, but you won't be, you're not, we know where you live. Certainly I do. So don't worry, everyone. I'll just try to mirror as best I can what Margaret did, because it was a phenomenal year. And I'm very excited about next year and hoping for, I know that word normalcy is, debatable, but I'm ready for some of it for next year for our kids and staff and faculty. So I'm excited.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. If I don't see you, have a wonderful summer. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you. Oh, Anne, make sure you send the recording out.
I will.
Asked by several people already.
Yep, I will. As always. Thank you for everything, Margaret.
Thank you, you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.